never forget this. And one day I just got fed up with hearing my mom fight this guy. And he used to have a bunch of guns in the house. So I made my mind up that I'm about to go and shoot him.
At 7 years old?
7 years old.
Wow.
And they used to have a gun on the nightstand. So I was like, I'm going in the room, I'm grabbing the gun, and I'm shooting Tony. While I'm sitting there watching this white man with a cigar in his mouth, old dude with a shotgun in his hand, while we out on the side of the highway chopping down trees and carrying them back to this wood chipper. Like, I realized that for one, I would never go back to jail again. And I'll never forget, I got pulled over, super dirty. I got a Tech 9 underneath the hood.
You were in Tennessee at this point or still in Georgia?
I had just crossed the Tennessee line.
Oh, wow.
I had coming back, right?
Jesus.
Got 2 pounds and a little tire in the back. So I got
And
a Tech 9 and
That's a fed charge.
Yeah, and I'm on probation, right? And I just crossed state lines. And I'm shaking. I am so terrified. I'm on the side of the road and I can't even control my legs. I'm shivering.
So you know the officer sees
I'm like, I'm gone.
We're here for the introduction of In and Out. It's a movement to change the world. It represents all things and all of us at all times. It's about freeing ourselves of any prison.
Welcome to In and Out Podcast, where I have dope conversations with incredible people who have been freed from some form of prison. I am Eric Giralt, your host, and today I'm speaking with Bryan Banks, my guest, as he takes us along his incredible journey of beating the longest odds and achieving success. What's happening, my brother? How you doing today?
Doing amazing, man.
All right,
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
No doubt. I appreciate you for coming on, taking time out your day. You know, fortunate enough to have you in Atlanta today. I want to give you a couple of minutes to introduce yourself, tell us some of the things you got going on, and tell us where you're going, and then we'll jump into our conversation.
That's what's up.
All right.
Well, as you know, my name is Bryan Banks. I'm the CEO and founder of Go Another Level Incorporated. It's a marketing branding company. We specialize in business development and overall just helping businesses and entrepreneurs reach goals, whatever that goal may be.
Wow.
Been in business 21 years, and by the grace of God, I've been able to just get a whole lot of practice, develop a lot of skills. We've launched a couple apps. We launched the first Black-owned augmented reality app in 2020. It's called Get Like Me. It allows users to control 3D avatars that mimic their body language. It's for iOS, so if you have an iPhone or an iPad, all right, you got like 33 different avatars to choose from.
Wow.
We just reached 80,000 downloads. So it's going really well. It's a free app. We plan on monetizing probably within the next couple months with opening the door for advertising. So there's no ads or anything on the app. It's all about the user experience.
Wow.
But most of my entrepreneur career has been about sales, leadership development, mentality development, and overall just helping people get to the point to where whatever they put their mind to, they actually can see tangible results. And just improving myself every day and learning how I can be better and adding more value to not only just business life, but life in general. So yeah.
That's dope. That's dope. So have you always had that mindset to want to just always, improve yourself, help other people to improve themselves? Where'd that come from?
I grew up poor. Like I grew up with nothing. So always
Where'd you grow up?
Orlando, Florida.
Okay.
We used to play games like That's My Car. My mom was a manager at McDonald's. So we always wanted more, So it wasn't a question of whether or not I could have it. I just needed the opportunity to work for it. So I always knew I was going to be successful. And I always thought really, really big as a child. So I got into art. So I used to draw the stuff I wanted. Right? I used to draw fancy cars. I used to draw nice houses. I actually drew all my tattoos. So yeah, it was just our mentality. My mom worked for everything we had. So I was like, if she can work like that, I can work and make much more money. I just need to find something that's going to pay me the way I want to be paid. And that's where it all started. But yeah, my mentality's always been, I can have whatever I want. Yo,
that's dope that you say that. I think about the fact that you said you used to draw and it seems to me that you had a strong imagination, but you also had a lot of confidence to know that if given the opportunity, you could achieve those things. And you also said that you watched your mother work a lot. Do you think some of watching your mother work, or where do you think that confidence came from? Because everybody doesn't have that confidence. Like growing up, especially growing up poor, situation you was growing up, was it you, your mother, and who else was there in the household?
My younger brothers.
Okay.
I'm the oldest. I'm the oldest of 4 boys at the time. It was 3 of us in the house. I had 2 younger brothers that was in the house with me. My youngest brother, he just turned 20. I think Corey just turned 20, so we weren't in the house together. But the confidence, I think it was definitely from my mom, but it just came natural.
Wow.
Like, just to be honest with you, like, I never was afraid of anything. I never recall a time where I was like afraid of something, except my mom. For real. For her coming home from work and being upset. So just seeing her, I don't think I ever saw my mom afraid. Like, I just don't ever remember seeing anything that resembled weakness. My mom's an extremely strong woman. She's from Brooklyn, New York. She's 5'3".
Shout out to New York.
And
Brooklyn.
And that was just how we were brought up. If you want something, work for it. I remember summer after 6th grade, I wanted some Deion Sanders, right? Growing up poor, you're not buying no $100 shoes, right? My mom ended up working a few jobs. So one of the jobs was her managing a shoe store, right?
Okay, so she was McDonald's, a shoe store,
yeah,
okay.
And also at the gas station across the street from where I lived. But at the shoe store, we got discounts. And a lot of them was that 5-finger discount, right? Okay. So that was when we got an upgrade on the shoes. But my mom told me, she's like, look, man, you big enough to fight. You big enough to work. You're going to go to Tennessee and spend the summer with your grandmother so you can work a summer job because you guys' school clothes are way too expensive. You want to play sports, yada, yada. I'm like, cool, whatever. I get to make money? Bet. Right. So I worked my first job on a construction site throwing bricks when I was 13 to buy school clothes for the 7th grade. And from then on, you couldn't really tell me nothing. I got a chance to actually work. And I'll never forget working on the job. One of the old dudes is like, man, how old are you? I told him, I was like, man, I'm 13.
Wow.
Right? And to be honest, I've been the same size since I was 13 years old, right? I probably gained 20 pounds. I was supposed to be 6'4". I just stopped growing, right? And one of the old dudes was like, how much they paying you? And I said it so proud. I was like, $7, right? And at that moment, I became curious because I'm 13 working for school clothes. He's probably 40 or 50 years old, got a lot of gray, drinking beer on the lunch break. Like, man, how old are you? He told me 50 something. I was like, but I do remember him saying how much you got paid. I was like, how much you getting paid? And he said it with his chest. He said, $750.
Wow.
And I was terrified at that moment. I was like, I do not want to grow up to be you.
Wow.
You're making 50 cents an hour more than a 13-year-old.
Incredible.
And I'm working harder than you. You know, so at that moment, I was like, I'm going to work hard so I don't become this guy. Because when I'm 40, I don't want to be doing the same thing and making the same kind of money as a 13-year-old kid. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that was just a time in my life where like the light bulb went off, like, you got to get your stuff together and work hard to not become a broke old man.
Wow. Now, that's fascinating to me because a lot of, like, I like to know where things come from, especially when it deals with like mindsets. Some people are just born with certain things that others weren't. Like, to me, I mean, obviously your mother set a perfect example for you because you was able to see someone in the household working hard. And for you, at a very young age, you got it. I guess you were the oldest of 4 boys, right? You were the oldest in the family. So maybe, and I'm gonna get to asking you if you felt like you were the man of the house in a moment, but so I had a conversation with a young man in another conversation a few weeks ago. His name was Jesse Crosson, and we got on the topic of talking about why a lot of young people ended up doing the things that they did and ended up incarcerated. And what we ended up talking about, he said a lot of people just he thinks they don't have the ability to imagine. And he said that he thought that came from a lack of exposure to being able to see certain things. And I travel a lot and I see around the world, one of the things that people around the world love about Americans is our ability to imagine, to literally believe that we could do whatever we want to believe, because in certain countries, depending upon, the religion or the government, certain people just they can't even conceive of they don't even dream about being able to do some of the things as Americans dream about. But I'm fascinated with you because a lot of what you're talking about, you had that from the time you was 13 years old. You was like, yo, I could do this. And so, like, where do you think that came from? I mean, I know you said that you just born with, do your brothers have that same type of mindset?
Actually, they do.
Okay.
They do. It's just whether or not they apply themselves all the time to get it. Because, people can want more, but then along the way, they're like, oh, you know what? I don't feel like working. This is good enough.
Right.
So the imagination, I believe, is just a choice. We didn't do a bunch of traveling.
Okay.
I remember us going to New York like once when we were in the 5th grade, going to the Eiffel Tower, and we were stupid kids throwing pennies off the Eiffel Tower in the wintertime, just dumb. And
In the 5th grade?
yeah, my mom took us, when I was 10 years old, she took us to go visit the New York side of the family.
Okay.
And that was like the trip that I remember as a kid.
You said the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah. No, not the Eiffel Tower.
Okay.
Sorry. Empire State Building.
Empire State Building.
Empire State
Wait a
Building.
minute, you did travel.
No, I
you went to
definitely
Paris.
No, I'm sorry. Empire State Building. I'm tripping.
All right.
But yeah, no, that was definitely New York. No,
Right.
not Europe.
No doubt. All right, I got you. All right.
But exposure helps, but I don't believe it's a make or break. I believe it's a decision. And a lot of times we decide that what we want based on what we don't want. Like, I knew that I wanted to be great because I didn't want to become that old guy, right? I knew I wanted to become like a good man for a woman because I didn't really see my mom have good dudes. You know what I mean? Like, my mom paid all the bills. So I was just like, no woman's supposed to be working this hard. So at my house, I pay all the bills.
Okay, you're
You know what I
onto
mean?
something. And I got it. So I want to get in. Number one, it sounds like different people have different motivations. And obviously, to you, your motivation was, I know I don't want to be like that. But then I also heard you say you believe it's a choice. I believe the same thing, but I've had arguments or discussions with people, and whether we're talking about somebody that suffers from substance abuse, or whether we're talking about someone that just continues to make bad decisions in their life. We all know people in our lives. I have people in my life and have had people in my life where they come to me, they'd be like, cousin, they ask me for advice. Whatever advice I give them, they do the opposite. It seems like they're addicted to making bad decisions. So I struggle with, and that's why I asked you, do you think you were born with this? Or do you think there was something that influenced it? The argument of nature versus nurture. Did this come from your mother? Who did this come from? Where did it come from? Because, so I struggle with being able to find out, do people make those bad decisions, or do people end up addicted to drugs because they're either unwilling or unable? Like, which one is it? So I want to get on that subject. I want to ask you your opinion, but I also want to ask you, because I might have missed it, but I don't think you addressed it. You said you saw your mother struggle. You said you didn't see your mother having good men in her lives. Where was your father?
Actually, I didn't know my father at first. So me and all my brothers have different fathers, right? And I knew who their fathers were. And there came a point, it was actually in the 5th grade when I was 10 years old. I asked my mom, like, who's my dad? It just was never a conversation that we had. All these kids bringing bring your parent to work day, stuff like that. Mom couldn't come.
And you'd see your brother's fathers.
I'd see them, they'd come and visit them, they'd come and pick them up. And actually my mom was married to my younger brother's father for just a couple years.
Okay.
And he was a military guy. So we actually did live in Germany probably for, I think, from the time he was born until 1. And
so how old were you?
I think I was 3.
Okay.
They separated and came back.
Got you.
So I'm not sure how long we were there, but it wasn't longer than a year.
And you don't have a real recollection of
No, I
Germany.
don't. I just remember being in the snow and fighting over a fire truck that somebody tried to take from my little brother. That's all I
Right.
remember about Germany.
All right.
So, nah, I never really saw the kind of guys I wanted my mom to have. And to be real with you,
How young do you have this memory where at that, like, how young were you where you were saying, Mom, I don't like the guys in my mom's life?
so my brother's dad was actually a good dude. But it probably was, how old was I? I think I was 7.
Wow.
Maybe, because my brother El Ray is probably 7. I think I was 7.
Wow.
So right after he was born, his father was abusive, like physically abusive.
And you saw that.
Yeah. So at first we would hear it. When you're in the room, the kids hear everything
Right.
going on in the house.
That's right.
And My mom's a
Particularly if
fighter.
you're not rich.
Yeah.
And you don't have a big house.
No, we were in an apartment.
Right.
And he had small man's complex. I'll never forget this. And one day I just got fed up with hearing my mom fight this guy. And he used to have a bunch of guns in the house. So I made my mind up that I'm about to go and shoot him.
At 7 years old?
7 years old.
Wow.
And they used to have a gun on the nightstand. So I was like, I'm going in the room, I'm grabbing the gun, and I'm shooting Tony. All right? So I go in the room, I reach for the nightstand, the gun's not there. His hairbrush is there. So I grab the brush, I'm at the door, I say, get off my mom. He gets off my mom and starts coming towards me. And my mom immediately grabs the gun that was in the other nightstand and points it towards him and is like, don't touch my son. Now behind me is the door, the stairs, whatever. He grabs the infant, which is my baby brother, Elray at the time.
His son?
Yeah, his son. And says, you gonna shoot me with my son in my hand? She said, try me. And at that moment, we moved out. Wow. So she had been in this abusive relationship for well over a year, maybe 2 years, long enough for her to get pregnant, have my baby brother. And that gave her whatever she needed. Like she would fight, but it wasn't enough for us to leave until it was one of us.
That was her tipping point.
That was the tipping point. So we moved in with my grandmother that lived in Pine Hills. And it's a suburb of Atlanta, not Atlanta, but Orlando. And just from then, it was always like, stick up for your family. You know what I mean? Fight for your mom, fight, whatever is important to you. But it was just a decision. I can't tell you where it came from or just that inner strength, but I'll never forget that. I've always had my mom's back. I've always had my brother's back, no matter what the odds were. And I don't believe everyone's equal. Like when you talked about drugs and some people are just mentally stronger than other people.
That's right.
Regardless of their privilege or lack of. Like I have a guy that works with us right now for our company, and he's the definition of white privilege. His father had 100 and something acres. He had a Porsche in his 20s. He looks like Johnny Bravo, right? I'm so serious.
Right.
But he's a recovering addict. He lost he doesn't even look at the world through the same lens that I do. We were riding together, police following us for like 20 minutes. He keeps turning around. I said, bro, stop turning around.
You're gonna get us killed, particularly me.
And then he's like, okay, he's chewing gum. He puts it in the paper and gets ready to roll down the window and throw it out the window. Do not throw it out the window. But in his mind, he's not doing anything wrong.
Right, and they can't do nothing to him anyway.
Yeah, but he grew up with everything.
Right.
Right? So he was exposed to way more than I was.
Right.
But he doesn't have that drive. He doesn't have that same hustle. He has a different level of different things motivate him. So I don't think it's exposure. I think exposure can encourage.
Okay.
I think exposure can highlight some things that are in you, because you can take a person who doesn't want anything in life, show them everything in life, and they still won't work to get everything in life because they just don't want it.
Right.
So I truly believe if a person wants it, like it's inside of them, like this is what I'm going to have, they're going to do what it takes to get it. Legal, illegal, hard work, scam, no work, whatever. They're going to figure a way to get it. But when it comes to like drugs and abuse and stuff like that, a lot of times it's just their environment. Because I believe whatever you're around the most, you begin to just accept. And the imagination, like, that's a place.
No question.
Like if you spend time imagining greatness, the other stuff really, like, this is just temporary. I'm working my way out of this. You guys don't even know where I'm going.
Right.
So I wish everyone was made equal. You know what I mean? Because
100%.
it's just not like that.
But then I guess my question for you would be, I don't disagree with what you said, but to add to that, my way of looking at that is the same way you said that everyone's not equal. Some people have the ability to imagine and some people don't, right? Like you had the ability to imagine. Where I guess what I'm thinking at, don't you think that whereas exposure might not matter to some people, it might matter more to others, particularly to those others that don't have the ability to imagine? Because I know a lot of people that just was never able to dream like I'm able to dream. No matter what situation you put me in, I always felt like I could overcome it and I could do it. That helped me get out of prison. So like, how was that with you, like with the imagination thing?
I agree 100% that exposure ignites something in people that they may not have naturally, that wasn't just maybe instilled from a parent or an internal desire. That exposure may just be the spark they need to be like, oh wow, I may not be able to acquire that, but I can get way further than where I am in life, right? I may not be able to hit the stars, but I can at least be on the 10th floor, you know what I mean? So I truly believe that there's nothing negative that comes from positive exposure.
Right.
I just don't think it automatically makes someone successful.
Gotcha.
Because we see people who have grown up with everything. They've been exposed to the best of the best their whole life, but somehow they still end up in the gutter.
Right.
Right?
That's right.
So yeah, I agree with you.
And in some instances, negative exposure could bring the positive out of people, like with your instance. It sounds like to me, and let me know, just expound on it, but it sounds like some of your intestinal fortitude maybe came at a very young age from being a protector and just, always wanting to, sounds like you maybe felt like you had to be the man of the house at a very young age.
I always did.
7 years old is incredible to me that you had to have those experiences.
I honestly always felt that way. A lot of the guys, they say don't bring men around your children, right? And the term is thrown out loosely, but the truth is how someone treats your child has everything to do with not how they view you, but how they view other people. Because this is the person you love, right? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I never really felt love from my mom's boyfriends. They were we just got to deal with you so we can have your mom.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So when I got the opportunity to not have to deal with that, and it was just us in the house, it was like, yeah, I'm gonna protect everything that's close to me.
Gotcha.
I genuinely it was natural. And then my grandmother also just reinstilled it. She definitely fortified that. Look, if you ever have to protect your family, this is how you do it.
Wow.
I'll never forget. I was 9 when I was first, a gun was put in my hand. Hey, if you ever have to use a gun, this is how you do it.
And your grandmother gave you that gun?
Absolutely.
Wow, your grandmother was a soldier too.
My grandmother was a G. That was
my heart. That's dope.
My heart.
That's dope. I like it. And how old were you? How old were you when you asked your mom, yo, what's up with my dad?
I was 10. I was in the 5th grade.
You was 10. Okay. That's what I thought you said.
Yeah. And it wasn't
what happened?
Here's guns, here's drugs. It was just, let me teach you a lesson. You know what I mean? So a lot of times.
From your grandmother?
Yeah.
Right.
It was, you're still going to go to school. You're still going to get good grades. You're not going to be out here acting stupid. You're not going to be disrespectful. Right? We didn't talk to our mom any kind of way.
Right.
If they asked you questions, it wasn't what. You know what I mean? We didn't do no eye rolling. I grew up where it's you get slapped if you're out of line. So
sounds like my family.
and I respected that. It's a different code. It's a different set of morals. It's a different set of upbringing that honestly you transfer to everything else in life if you learn to respect and appreciate where it comes from.
Right.
But yeah.
That's dope. And I'm seeing more and more as I talk to you, so the women in your life, obviously your mother and your grandmother, they are very, very largely responsible for the person and the human that you turned out to be. And yeah, I didn't take it at that for 1 second that your grandmother was doing what needed to be done at that time, because she saw and she was able to realize you for all intents and purposes were the man of the house. You were the protector. And so she was telling you, oh, this is, a lot of times we don't give children enough credit for being humans. So we want to protect them, and we're very young. We want to, hide things from them and not let them see. But really, children have a greater ability to be able to process information and be able to handle things than we give them credit for. And when they're forced into those situations, a lot of times they perform, and it sounds like you did at a young age. So what did your mom tell, when you asked about your dad at 10 years old, what'd she tell you?
She told me it was a guy named Brett, right? And
what is his name?
His name's Joseph.
Okay, so all right.
So she told me it was a guy named Brett.
Was there a Brett? Was this a person you knew?
I didn't know him, but
but
she took me to go meet Brett eventually, right?
Okay.
Probably later on that year.
So this is someone she knew that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm probably one of her ex-boyfriends I had never met before. I was like, okay, cool. So I go and meet Brett, And Brett actually was a nice guy. Brett wanted a son. Brett had a nice family. Brett introduced me to carrot cake. Like, Brett was cool.
That's why she told him. That's why she told you he was Brett.
Yeah,
he was a good figure.
Yeah, and we hung out probably 3-4 times, but my spirit knew, you're not my dad. Like, we were not anything alike. We didn't have anything in common. Although you would make a good dad.
Right.
I know you're not my dad.
You're not. Right.
No one has to tell me this.
Right.
So I played.
Did he try and embrace you as if you was his own son?
Absolutely. He
Okay.
treated me great. Introduced me to his family, like everything
Okay.
about, like, it was, for an average young man, they probably just would have rolled with it.
Right.
I got a good dad, good role model, like, nice guy, they treat me good, cool.
Right.
But my spirit just wasn't settled.
Right. Because
So-
you mentioned earlier that, and I've seen this before, like it takes a special man and someone that really loves a woman if he will love her children too. But like you said, a lot of guys, they don't really make an effort to love the children as if the children are their own. They just really want the woman.
Facts.
But Brett was trying his best.
Brett was trying his
Right.
best. And 3 years later, on my 13th birthday, I approached my mom. And she really approached me, and she just set herself up. She's like, what do you want for your birthday?
Oh, wow.
And children, it's tough for them to confront their parents. But at 13, I mustered up the courage to be like, I want you to stop lying to me.
Wow.
And she knew exactly what I was talking about. She didn't say about what. She didn't ask me any questions. She said, you want to meet him? I said, yeah. And she took me to go meet him at that moment.
Wow.
When I met him, he was in Altamont. It's a suburb of Orlando. He was selling dope. Had a pit bull on a treadmill outside listening to Tupac, right? But the moment I met him, like, I knew that was my
your
pops.
dad.
It was crazy because if he speaks and I speak, we have the same speech patterns. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that it was just transferred without us ever being around each other. He played ball, like, and I knew, like, at that moment, and he did too. He didn't question it, and he embraced me as his son. He just lived the alternative lifestyle that my mom
Right.
didn't want me to be around. So
How did that make you feel at that time, meeting your father?
man, I felt great.
Because you knew who your father was.
Yeah, I knew who my dad was. I had been fighting this. I don't want to argue with my mom. I know you lying to me, but I know you love me, so it doesn't make sense. I'm confused, right? So yeah, it was like an internal battle, and I just did the best I could until then. And then once we started hanging out, I understood why she didn't want me to know who he was.
Even at a young age, you understood that?
Absolutely. It was obvious. Like within
Because of the street life he was
because
living.
of the street life. We hung out, and in an hour, I don't know how many crackheads, you know what I mean? Like, he served, and his nickname was Fix. So immediately they started calling me Lil Fix.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but he treated me great. You know what I mean? And he got a lot of love for me. And we probably got to hang out, I don't know, probably 10, 20 times. His side of the family embraced me. Then we moved to Atlanta.
Okay. But you still, it's funny because even though you met him at 13, you still got that feeling, even though he was doing what he was doing because, you know, obviously he might have thought that was his only way of making money, or, that's what he was used to. But he still gave you that feeling like, yo, this is my son.
Absolutely.
And you felt that love in spite of what he was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's very important for children to be able to have, to know who their parents are and feel the love, more importantly, from to know that this is where I came from.
Nothing can replace it. Nothing can replace it. So what he didn't overshadow who he was to me. Like, I didn't look down on him. I never heard him disrespect a woman. He never talked bad about my mom. Like, it was just, when you long for something and you finally get it, you know what I mean? So it was great. So every opportunity I got, I had a friend that was older than me that had a car. Every chance I got, I'm trying to run over there and hang out with Pops. He'd come over, not come over, but come to my side of town, and we'd go play ball at my middle school.
Right.
It was just cool. It was cool.
Okay.
Of course, nobody wants their parent to be living like that and doing those things. But at the time, I was just happy to meet my father and have a man that was genuinely loving towards me.
Right. That's dope. And at that time, at that age, it doesn't sound like it was, but I'll still ask you, was there any thought in your mind where you wanted to do what he was doing or sell drugs like he was selling or anything like that?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I wanted to play ball.
You wanted to play ball? Okay, really?
I wanted to go to the NBA. Basketball was my
Really?
thing. I actually started cutting hair summer after the 5th grade when I was 10 years old because my mom used to cut my hair. We used to get the soup bowls. You know what a soup bowl is, right? I wasn't going to middle school with a soup bowl haircut, right? So I taught myself how to fade that summer. Cut a couple yards, bought some clippers, taught myself how to cut hair. And turns out he cut hair, he played ball. We had so much in common that, like the positive stuff too, you know what I mean? But nothing he did negatively made me want to sell drugs,
Right.
like none of that. And he didn't influence me to do it.
Gotcha.
He never handed me a drug.
Gotcha.
He never passed me a blunt. He never, nothing. The
Right.
only thing that I ever participated in was on my 14th birthday. He's like, you ever had a lap dance? I was like, no. He whistled and his little women came out the back. And me and my homeboy got our first lap dance. That might just be why I like the strip club so much back in the day, but nah. And he didn't encourage me to do anything negative,
That's what's up.
directly or indirectly.
Okay. And then you ended up moving. Where'd you move?
I moved to Atlanta
You
a year
moved to
later.
Atlanta. What particular reason made y'all move to Atlanta?
My mom said the job market was better.
Gotcha.
She was just looking for a higher paying job, something to give us a better life and her more opportunity.
Dope.
Because in Orlando, especially like part of Central Florida, it's mostly hospitality. Hospitality and retail because of the theme parks, the restaurants. So if you're like a high school educated person and like you're not an entrepreneur, at least back then, my mom was making like $5.15 an hour. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was minimum wage back
My mom
then.
had me when she was 16 years old.
Right.
Right. So she just saw Atlanta as how Atlanta was promoted. It's the
Right.
Mecca. It's the place for Black people to come if you really want to be successful. And,
Right.
and she jumped on the train.
Right. I don't think she was wrong about that. It's still happening. I mean,
I agree.
Atlanta's a dope city,
Yeah.
particularly for Black people. It really is.
I wouldn't be who I was had she not brought me here.
Okay. That's dope. And then, so what happened? Did you and your father, were y'all able to still communicate? Did y'all stay close? Or what happened as the years went on?
So after we moved to Atlanta, we probably had a phone call here and there. I heard he went to jail, right? And I was like, okay, cool, no big deal. You know what I mean? He was in and out of jail pretty much his whole life.
Gotcha.
And that was the reason why she didn't tell me who he was from the beginning, because
Right.
he was in prison. I think he served like 6 or 7 years before that. But it was 10th grade. I think I was 15 years old when I got a call that he was sentenced to 20 years.
Wow.
So to me, that was life.
Right.
And I was broken. I was just like, I cannot believe this. I just met my dad. Y'all took him away from me. Like, I didn't want to hear anything. And then I was mad that you made me leave Florida. So now it's like, yeah. So
Wow.
we really didn't communicate. He started writing me later on, like in the years once I like moved out and stuff like that. But nah.
But it really hurt you. You was affected by the fact that you knew your pops was locked up.
Yeah, it changed everything about my life.
Wow.
I probably was a pretty good student up until then. But it changed my whole focus. I became angry.
I was going to ask you, how did that make you feel?
I was
Angry towards whom?
Everybody.
Okay. And
Like-
didn't know how to deal with it.
I didn't treat people like I was mad, but on the inside, it was just like this frustration that I couldn't express. So I did what I wanted. Nobody could tell me anything. I thought I was invincible, and I was just like, I'm gonna just get some money and do what I want. Me and my mom's relationship started getting rocky, and it wasn't long after that where she put me out of the house.
Your mom put you out. How
Yeah,
old were you?
16.
Okay.
I
Because
was-
you wasn't following any of her rules.
At
You were
all.
Reckless. Thought you were grown.
Couldn't tell me anything.
I got it.
I bought my first car. She didn't want me to be a bad example for my brothers. That's really why she put me out.
I get it. 100%. Makes sense. You know, I have 4 children. 2 boys, 2 girls. So, I mean, it does.
Yeah.
Like at some point, you love all your children. You know, people, you know, a lot of times even our children ask us sometime and other people, do you have favorites? And I acknowledge there probably are some parents that have favorites. we didn't. But if one child, particularly a lot of times it's the oldest, is kind of messing up and not going along with the program, then you got to think about the others. Like, man, they watching you, man. You an influence on them. You gotta stop that. You can't do this around here. So that's what happened with you and your moms.
That's exactly what happened.
So how did you buy a car? You said you bought your own car.
Yeah. So
how were you making money?
I had a bunch of different ways I made money.
All right.
So shooting dice was my thing. I shot dice in between every class period, almost every night. I cut hair, $10, $15 a haircut. I got into stealing, right? So I got a job working at Walmart.
Did you?
Right.
Okay.
And I'll never forget it. I was a truck unloader at Walmart. Seemed like everywhere I went, they wanted me to be a truck unloader. And I was the only one that could bring a book bag in the warehouse. So I was coming fresh off the school bus.
Okay.
So I'm the youngest dude.
Oh, you're the youngest dude in there?
Yeah, I'm the youngest dude in there. And we're unloading these trucks. And this was right when the flip cameras came out. The little cameras with the little flip screen. Y'all know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And they were like $750.
Yeah.
But they were only about this big.
Right.
Right? So I was like, book bag. Right? So first time I took one, smooth. And the guys I was working with, they knew I was taking them. So I didn't even have to look for customers. I would take them, they would get off work, drive up to my house, and I would sell them to them for $250.
Okay.
So I had built-in clientele.
Right.
So I actually saved like $1,800 in like maybe 6-7 days.
Right.
So I bought my first car before I even got my first check from Walmart. And I'll never forget when I went to Walmart one day and they were bringing me into the office to fire me, right? And they're like, we're gonna have to let you go. And I just knew I was caught, right? And they're like, you've been late too many times. I was like, really? That's it? Oh, cool.
Really?
Thank you. So yeah, but what's crazy is my mom put me out over that car because I didn't have a driver's license. I didn't have insurance. When I went to the car lot to buy the car, the guy was like, let me see your driver's license, right? I just handed him an ID. And then I started counting the money. I said, how much did you say it was? Right, so I started counting out the money. Of course, that distracted him. He makes a copy of an ID, gives me the keys. I drive off with the car. Mom finds out, yeah. My mom finds out I got the car for my baby brother. I'm not supposed to be driving, so she wants the keys, and I just refused to give her the keys. And then we got into a big fight.
That's when you left.
That's when she put me out and I left.
Right. Yeah, she had to remove you because if your siblings see you disrespecting moms like that, then she's gonna basically lose authority over them. You know, because they're just gonna look at it like, yo. So,
funny part is my mom still showed love. Like even though the car was like a breaking point for us. The engine blew up in that car like 2 weeks later, right? And so we talk on the phone, and my mom's like, "How's your car doing?" I said, "Man, the motor blew up." She's like, "Oh, there's a lemon law. They got to replace the motor in that car." I said, "Ma, like I bought this car as is." She says, "You're a 16-year-old with no driver's license. Like they weren't supposed to sell you the car in the first place."
Right.
Meet me at the dealership, right? So we go back up to the dealership, and the salesman's like, "Hey, he bought it as is. Whatever happens after that."
Moms ain't going for that.
Mom's not going for that at all. She's like, you sold a guy, you let a minor with no driver's license come in. He's like, he got a driver's license. She said, go show me his driver's license. So he comes back with the copy of the ID that he didn't never look at. So they end up putting a motor in that car. My mom fought for that for me. I was like,
that's what's up.
Yeah, I was like, good looking out, ma. It lasted a few more months, and then I just kept buying other cars to replace it. Because back then, you could buy a car from $700 to $1,200.
Right.
And you know, when you working and you hustling and you getting money, it's not hard to get cars.
Right.
But I appreciated her still looking out for me, even though I was disobedient when I went and got the car.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No question. But yeah, there's nothing like a mother's love, you know.
Yeah.
So she knew you was messing up, but at the same time, you were still her baby. You were her son, firstborn. Sure. So what were you? So you were 16 at this time. So were you still going to school?
Yeah, I was in school every day.
Okay. Did you graduate?
Yeah.
Okay. So you continued to maintain your grades and everything.
So I actually got kicked out of school 2 months before graduation.
Okay.
That's when I actually got locked up for real.
Why'd you get kicked out of school?
So I had an apartment behind the school, and my house was pretty much the spot.
That's right.
You would drive out the back parking lot past the football field. I think it was like the 5th or 6th house up on the left.
Oh, so you were throwing cup parties and everything. You were the man in school.
Yeah, it was every day. Like it was Yeah, every day.
Yeah, he was one of the few cats that you had your own place. You lived on your own.
Yeah, everybody's
with a
always,
car.
they looking for a place to do what they can't do at home.
Right.
So some stuff got stolen from the school, and someone got caught with the keys to the school in their pocket, and they were like, "Where's the stuff at?" And they snitched. They was like, "Brian's house."
Wow.
So of course the place is in my name, and they came and found me in class, and they made an example out of me. They put me in handcuffs in the school, walked me through the cafeteria, even though they could have walked me right out the door. And
they needed a perp walk you through the cafeteria for everybody to see it.
Exactly. So I was
serve as a deterrent.
Yeah. So I was permanently suspended from Campbell High School.
Wow.
And then I ended up going through the jail process, county jail, and prison boot camp at West Georgia boot camp. So that was about a total of 5 to 6 months between both of those. And I moved to Tennessee to live with my grandmother. And live with my grandmother, it's like, you're gonna work here, you're gonna get a job, and you're gonna graduate. So I graduated from Cone Adult High School in Nashville, Tennessee.
Dope.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I know they have it's like an alternative high school for like, I guess, yeah, I mean, they have that in different states.
Yeah, and what's crazy is I only needed a half a credit.
Right.
I really could have graduated early, but I stretched it out just because I had fun in school.
Right.
I could have graduated the first semester.
Got you. That's what's up. So you went through the, what was that experience going through the boot camp and everything like that?
It was wild. But what's interesting is I feel like God prepares you for whatever you're going to experience before you experience, whether you know it or not. So before this, like when I was rebelling, I really got into just being extreme. Like I had no limits on pretty much, as long as it didn't involve women or children, like it was pretty much almost anything goes, with the exception of cocaine. So I got into rock.
You mainly talking about using, selling, or a combination of everything?
I'm talking about as far as what I would do to go make money. So I got
to get paid. Okay.
To get paid.
Right.
So like I'm just being totally transparent. I'm ski masking up. I'm like there wasn't really nothing that was off limits.
Gotcha.
If there's some money there, we're gonna go get it.
Right. There's no children, there's no women involved. I need the money. I gotta support my lifestyle.
Exactly.
I get it.
So before this, I had started pretty much making my neighborhood hot.
Do all of the shenanigans.
Do everything I had going on. So I ended up taking the ASVAB test sophomore year, or was that junior year?
What is ASVAB?
ASVAB is the military test.
Okay.
Pretty much they said all juniors that would like to get out of third period report to the auditorium. They trick you into taking this test actually, right? So you come to the auditorium, they give this military presentation, they give out a bunch of pamphlets, and you can take this test, right? To see what you qualify for the military.
Gotcha.
Pretty much this is like their lead generation for the military. Their marketing, army, boot camp, whatever. So a few weeks later, recruiter shows up at my door. This is when I'm still living with my mom. It's like, hey, you qualified top percentage on the ASVAB. We can get you some free money for college, right? I'm like, man, I'm not going to the military. He's like, you don't have to go. You can be, what was it called, reserves. I said, man, I'm in the 11th grade, all right? He said, you got something called split op. Most people don't even know what split op is.
I don't.
Split op, right? If you decide you want to go reserves and you're on track for graduation, that's the number one thing. You got to be on track for graduation. The summer after your junior year, you can go to basic training.
Wow.
And that's what I did. He's like, look, you can get away from the summer. And recruiters are real slick.
I know that. They recruiting children.
Yeah, he took me to the club, right?
Wow.
Everything. Me and my recruiter kicked it, like became friends in order for him to be like, me to be like, all right, I'm gonna do it, right? So I went and completed basic training for the military my junior year. Then after senior year, when I ended up going to prison boot camp, the military boot camp had already prepared me for this.
Got you.
They got the same hats on like the state troopers. They're yelling at you just the same. There really wasn't much of a difference, except military boot camp, I'm getting paid, right? It's a job. So I came back with money, bought a little Accurate. I was a little upgrade on the car. But when I went to prison boot camp, it was like legal slavery.
Right.
Just like you see on the movie Life. We're waking up at 5 a.m. I'm in a pod with like 60, 70 other dudes, right?
Right.
If we mess up, if we fight, we do anything, whatever sentence they gave you that's deferred upon the completion of boot camp,
right,
you're getting the full sentence. There's no do not pass go. It's pretty crazy.
Right.
So boot camp, while I'm sitting there watching this white man with a cigar in his mouth, old dude with a shotgun in his hand, while we out on the on the side of the highway chopping down trees and carrying them back to this wood chipper. Like, I realized that, for one, I would never go back to jail again.
Okay.
Like, at that moment, I knew, I was like, this ain't life. I'm literally a slave right now. And
No doubt.
And I know y'all are making money off me.
Right.
And I know what I did doesn't warrant the punishment I'm getting.
Okay.
So, for one, I never believed in the system or anything like that, but boot camp just made me really be like, you know what? Crime is not gonna be what I do to, you know what I mean, make a consistent living.
Okay.
That was, yeah, so I made it through that, didn't get in any trouble, and then got out and went on probation. I was on probation for 7 years after that.
Wow. All right. Well, and listen, I guess boot camp and things and programs like that do work for some people. It sounds like it did actually serve as a deterrent to you.
Absolutely.
You had the mindset to like, yo, once again, and I'm seeing now there's at least two categories. Like when you talk about like positive and negative exposure. For you, it seems like negative exposure worked really well. Starting from I'm just being real. Starting from a young age, I see that, and that takes us. The ability to learn from other people's mistakes is like a really, really great character trait to have. They say like, because most of us learn from our own mistakes. Like we can't take advice, or like when our parents tell us don't do that, most of us go out there and we still do it anyway. You got to touch the oven first. Yeah. But it sounds like in a lot of instances, you're like, yo, I know I don't want that, and I'm gonna go in the other direction. So that's pretty dope. What was your plan after boot camp though? You had, 6 or 7 years in probation. So what did you do next?
So when I got out of boot camp, what was interesting is my grandmother and my mother picked me up from boot camp together. Walked outside, they both in the car.
Two strong women in your life.
Baby brother's with me. She's like, look, you can't live in Atlanta no more.
Wow.
I was like, okay. I'm thinking I'm gonna go see a girl. I'm gonna go hang out with my boys. I'm gonna get a job. I've been drawing all these cars that I want. It's just like,
back to the drawing.
Yeah.
Imagination.
So you got to go see your probation officer, like almost immediately when you get out. So we go to Franklin Road and Marietta.
Okay.
And I go see the probation officer. And I was on a first offenders program. I'm not sure if they still have that.
Right.
So my grandmother tells the probation officer, she didn't ask, she told the probation officer, like, he's coming to live with me in Atlanta. He can't Tennessee, he can't be around here anymore.
Because they knew you were going to mess up if you stayed in Atlanta.
Yeah. So she tells them about my military experience. Turns out the probation officer, he was ex-military.
A lot of times they are.
Yeah, so he had a soft spot. He's like, okay, well, we can transfer his probation to Tennessee. They were like, okay, cool. Well, whatever paperwork I need to fill out, I just was there to check in, right? Take the drug test, sign the paper, see how much my fines are. I can have you how much money, by what time, no problem, right? I'm gonna get a job, we'll get it done. And they literally drove me straight to Tennessee from there.
Wow.
So I was on what was called a written report. So I faxed the paper and sent a money order in every month.
To Atlanta?
To Atlanta.
Okay, so they didn't have to switch your probation actually to Tennessee.
They tried to. Turns out they can't transfer the first offenders program to Tennessee, right? But the probation officer already agreed, so he just kept rolling with it. And what's crazy is I only met my probation officer twice. The day I got on probation, 7 years later, the day I got off.
Wow. That's another thing too, the fact that you were able to go through probation. A lot of people can't do probation or supervised release. No. They just keep messing up and having infractions.
And I probably would have been one of those people had it not been just God covering my life, just being honest. Because I got to Nashville, I'm working these little dead-end jobs, $7.50 an hour in warehouses. And it's really not much money, but I got a roof over my head. I'm doing what my grandmother asked. I'm working, and I saw an opportunity. When I got to Tennessee, I realized that people paid like almost twice the amount for weed that they paid in Nashville, right?
I know all about Tennessee.
So I was like, oh, y'all pay what? Okay. So I started moving pounds from Nashville to Tennessee while I'm working my regular job.
From Atlanta to Tennessee?
From Atlanta.
You still had your connection in Atlanta?
Yeah. So I was driving back and forth. I had bought a 99 Tahoe probably 3 months after I got out. And I'll never forget, I got pulled over super dirty. I got a Tech 9 underneath the hood.
You were in Tennessee at this point or still in Georgia?
I had just crossed the Tennessee line.
Oh, wow.
I had coming back right?
Jesus.
Got 2 pounds and a little tire in the back. So I got
And
a
a
tech
gun.
line and
That's a fed charge.
Yeah, and I'm on probation,
Oh.
right? And I just crossed state lines. And I'm shaking. I am so terrified. I'm on the side of the road and I can't even control my legs. I'm shivering.
So you know the officer sees
I'm like,
you.
I'm gone. I'm
You're so nervous
That's
for?
exactly what she kept saying. I'm like, I gotta pee. I got
Good answer.
Yeah, I gotta pee. Right? I was so scared I had to pee, right? So she's like, step over there. So I step over there, I pee, and she's just looking she's like, I know it's in here. And she keeps looking at my bumper, right? And I'm just like, I'm looking at her like, why are you back there? So she's thinking that's where it's at. So she pulls out a bunch of pine needles. She doesn't find anything. And she's like, I know something's not right here, but I can't find it, right?
That's what she told you?
Yeah.
Wow.
And grace of God, they let me go.
Sounds like that was God.
Right?
So they already had backup and all of that?
No, she didn't call any backup yet. It was just her.
Okay.
I call they because the people is they to me.
Yeah.
So
Them people, I get it.
So I'm like, okay, cool, I'm gonna chill out. But I had already developed a little clientele in Tennessee.
Right.
So again, when I say God, like I can't talk about anything that's happened good in my life without giving him credit. Just being honest.
Right.
Because there's been so many extreme situations where I know he had a plan for me. Not even 30 days later, I end up in a massive shootout protecting my baby brother in Tennessee that came up here. I left work, he gets jumped. I know who jumped him because they're my customers. So I call him like, hey, you know what's up. This my brother. I'm coming. So long story short, it's probably like 3 PM. We're in the middle of the day shooting outside my grandmother's house. She's at work. She comes home. The house is taped off. And it was funny because when I'm driving home to go get my pistol, I got a garbage bag of weed in the house. I told my brother, go in the house and get under the bed. And really, I didn't even want to get in this situation. I'm like, man, I'm trying to live a quiet life. Even though I sold weed, that was just, to me, another form of income. I didn't even think of that as a crime.
Right.
Like,
of course.
I didn't like, I'm working a regular job, still make my little $8 an hour. When I get off, I make 2 or 3 drop-offs, and I wake up in the morning.
Supplement your income.
Yeah. I'm like, it's just extra income. I never saw myself as a drug dealer. So long story short, when I was on the way home with my baby brother after that situation happened, after he got jumped, I was trying to avoid the altercation. I was like, you know what? I'm on probation. Right across the street from my grandmother's house is a fire department. Once I realized that now I'm outnumbered, it's like 7 cars of dudes. It's just me and my baby brother. I pull up on the grass and I'm trying to beep the horn on my truck, right? That was the moment I found out that my horn didn't work. I never had tried to beep my horn before. So I had no choice. I said, man, when I throw it in park, get in the house, get under the bed. Went in the house, grabbed the gun, and I'm literally standing in front of the house there at the intersection. We're shooting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in Smyrna, Tennessee, this little town.
Wow.
They don't see nothing like that. Turns out one of the city officials, mayor, governor, something like that, is in the fire department watching the entire thing.
Wow.
Yeah, because I pulled on the grass. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we leave. We actually get away. My grandmother comes home. The house is taped off. She calls me. I'm at my girlfriend's house.
Police came, taped the house off, everything. They was,
Yeah.
Okay.
We let off some shots.
Right.
It's probably 7 of them shooting, and it's just me in the middle of the driveway.
Okay.
She calls me. It's like, you got to come home. I said, I ain't coming home. All right, you already know I'm on probation. Like, it's in my mind, I'm gone. My life is over at that moment, in my mind.
Right. I get it.
She's like, you got to come. You got to turn yourself in or you're going to be on the run forever. So me and my brother get our story straight.
They came to your grandmother. They were looking for you, for real. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like, she comes home from work. The house is surrounded. The house is taped
Gotcha.
off. We looking for a dude that drives this truck that was in your driveway. She's like, So she's like, you got to come and talk to him. Like, I don't talk to police, TT. Like, that's not how we do it.
Yeah.
She's like,
I respect you, but not this time.
no. She's like, if you don't, they're going to find you and they're going to find your brother. And it's going to be way worse. So I was like, okay, let's get our story together. They were shooting at us. We don't know who they are. There's no names, no nothing. We drove off. I had no idea they watched the whole thing. So we come in to turn ourselves in, and they interrogate us for about maybe 7 hours. It's like maybe 10 o'clock at night, 3 in the morning. My grandmother comes in the interrogation room. It's crazy. It kind of felt like this. She looks me in my eyes and is like, if you tell the truth, they'll let you go.
Wow.
I said, yeah, right. And she gave me
This was crazy.
the grandmother look, like I knew she wasn't lying. She said, if you tell the truth, they'll let you go. So I told the truth. Didn't say any names, right? I was like, yeah, somebody followed me home. Because Tennessee has a law. And they actually let me go. Because Tennessee's law is if anyone follows you home for any reason, it's automatically self-defense. And everything they find is inadmissible. They couldn't charge me for the gun. They couldn't charge me for none of the little residue of the weed they found left. Like, nothing. They couldn't contact my probation officer. Exactly.
Incredible. So I guess that's kind of like this stand your ground law. That's similar to it.
Very similar. 7 days later, I answered an ad in the paper into a management training program that taught me sales and entrepreneurship. 18 weeks later, I was the CEO of my first company.
Wow. And you told us in the beginning, but what company was that? And what did it do?
When I started it, at first it was called not Go. It's called New Growth.
Okay. So that was I'm sorry. To that incident, that was a turning point in your life, would you say?
That was the absolute turning point in my life. When I got introduced to the management training program and saw that I could do sales, I could make real money. I don't have to do anything illegal. Like everything else was done. I ate, slept, and breathed business. Nothing was going to jeopardize my opportunity to become successful and make a real income. And really, I looked at it as changing my family tree. I named my first company New Growth Incorporated because I felt like I had grown that much as a person. Plus, I had real long braids, and I took my hair out during a management meeting, and I was like, New Growth, because the name of the company that trained me was New Core. I was like, I'm gonna name my company New Growth.
That's dope.
And that was my first marketing company in Jackson, and I dedicated my whole life to it. I stopped really playing sports, watching TV. It was 12, 14 hours a day. I'm interviewing 100 people a week. I'm going out working 16 hours a day, rain, sleet, hail, snow, just reaching goals. But yeah, I felt like God not only protected me, but he also gave me an opportunity that took up all of my time and forced me to develop new skills.
Wow. And is New Growth still going today?
No, I ran that company about 1.5 years.
Okay.
And because although I was good at making money, I was horrible at managing it.
Okay.
And I loved the strip club.
Right.
So I went out of business and had to start over. And I started another company in St. Louis. Pretty much it was almost that same cycle there.
Another marketing company.
It was the exact same business.
Okay.
Same business model.
You just took it somewhere else.
Exactly.
Same blueprint.
Difference was I didn't have a problem managing money. I had a problem managing my inventory at this time. I was really trusting of people.
Okay.
So I lost a bunch of money through inventory, and I went right back into the management training program. So I went out of business twice.
Okay.
And had to start from scratch. Third time, I opened up in Texas, and from there, I had it down to a science. Developed a whole bunch of different entrepreneurs. We opened 7 facilities. That's when I started running another level.
Gotcha.
And it just grew from there.
Dope.
We had 120 people working at one time, 6 days a week. We were doing $20,000 to $40,000 a week out of my building on the north side of Houston, Texas, off of AirTex. And that's when I really was able to consistently apply the skills that I had developed, and I had evolved into someone who was responsible enough to hit all the marks.
Okay.
And whatever obstacle was that we faced, we just overcame it.
So what is that company doing now?
Actually, now we're doing a reconstructed version of the same business model, but now instead of us being product focused, we still sell products, but we're much more service focused. So I took those marketing skills of being able to set a goal and reach a goal, and what I had learned to now we service clients. So we help businesses increase their sales. On average, our average client usually sees anywhere between 100 to a 200% sales increase.
Wow.
In 60 to 90 days of us working with them. Some of them just need one-offs like website development. They need a logo designed. They need a strategic marketing plan that they have their team implement. But We work with every kind of entrepreneur and
Really?
business that you can think of. Yeah.
And this is branding and marketing.
Branding and marketing. That's exactly what it is.
Okay. Where are your offices?
Actually, Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville, Tennessee.
That's the
Okay.
only
You're not
location.
in Atlanta right now.
No, we're not in
okay.
Atlanta right now. And it's funny you asked that, because for the last year and a half, I've been talking about expanding and opening a location in Atlanta.
Yeah, why not?
We just haven't gotten there yet, but
Okay.
I believe it's coming soon.
Dope.
We've partnered with some really great companies. In October, I partnered with one of the largest employers in Africa, the largest employer in South Africa,
Wow.
to become part of a global employment challenge to help high-level graduates in Africa find remote work across the United States, Europe, and Australia. And that was a great experience. But just through building business relationships and being a top performer in the industry, I've been able to meet some really great people that recognized our value. I've worked with Roy Jones Jr. There's been some really great people. Like, we really don't discriminate, but I love the people that God puts in front of us. And if they're a good person, they've got a good business model, they've got their stuff together, and they can afford us, we work with them.
Wow, that's dope. That's dope. That's fascinating. I love the fact that you was doing that initiative with South Africa. I've been to South Africa. I love it. It sounds like you're doing a lot of dope things. The companies are still on that upward trajectory. We'd love to see you come to Atlanta. Listen, we could keep talking for a long time. I wish we could, but we are running out of time. I got a few more minutes.
Go ahead.
And I wanna take something that we call an in and out segment here, where sort of like word association, man. I just give you a word. Tell me the first thing that comes to mind, either a phrase or, whatever you think of when I tell you that. It's just a few minutes if we could close it up like that, and then,
Let's do it.
and you could take us out of here. So I've got 5 or 6 words, word association that I want to give you in our in and out segment. Love.
Peace.
Freedom.
Joy.
Pain.
Wow. Discomfort.
Okay. Forgiveness.
Wow. Learning.
Okay. What is your passion, Bryan?
My true passion is helping people. Business has just always been the vehicle I use to be able to do it. And my true passion is reaching goals as well, whatever that goal may be. I've never wanted to be someone who was just living in one place, I never wanted to live in America my entire life. So one of my passions is travel. Always wanted to travel the world, and reaching goals is how I do it.
Dope. And last but not least, what does it mean to you when I say in and out? What does that mean to you?
In and out. What does it mean to me? If I don't do brand association with your shirt and understanding that it's someone who's been in and that's come out, I think in and out is, in my mind, I think of get in and get out. Whether you're going into work and then coming out, get into the work of whatever you're doing and get out of it. Get into your goal and get the results out of it. Like, you put in and you get something out. So it's kind of like the cycle of life. You sow and you reap. You put a seed in and you get out a tree.
Right.
You know what I mean? So yeah, that's really what I see.
Dope.
Just different levels of that growth. Something goes in and something comes out. It all depends on how much you put in on what you get out.
Right, no doubt. All right, well, in closing, I want to give you an opportunity to, let everybody know, I guess, what are your plans for the future? Where are you going? Let everybody know where they can find you. Give them all your social media platforms if people are looking for you, if they need some branding, if it's businesses, if they need branding, if they need marketing, tell them where they can find you.
Well, guys, you can find me on Instagram at Bryan Banks Branding. That's Bryan Banks Branding, just like the word. Our website is goanotherlevel.com, and our future is going to consist of continuing to reach goals on all levels. My financial goal is to make at least $10 million by the end of 2025. We've got a new platform we're launching called the True Story app. I'm talking about knocking. It's ready to be released. The website is actually already up. It's called thetruestoryapp.com. And this is a private, family-friendly, community-building app that allows us to really share the history of our family. You heard my family history. I don't really know anyone past my grandmother. Most of us don't know our family tree. It offers a bunch of utilities that allow people to build family trees, create family trust at really a quality cost. It allows them to store content that is private. And one of my favorite features is the time capsule feature, where you can send messages and videos into the future. You got a 6-year-old son, you want to send him a message on his 18th birthday, you can record it today, schedule for him to receive it, and tell him whatever you'd like to tell him on his 18th birthday. So yeah, that's the truestoryapp.com. That'll be available very soon on iOS as well as Android devices. But yeah, we're gonna continue to make things happen. We're gonna continue to help people grow in business and in life, and just continue to love God and be the best person we can be. But most importantly, we're gonna continue to go another level.
All right. No doubt. And y'all heard it again. We was here with my good friend. I'm so happy that he was here to help take you to another level. Bryan Banks, he's got a lot of things that he's doing. He's a visionary. The man was a man-child at a very young age. And if he tells you that he's going to do something, you can bank on it. Because you can see that anything that this man put his mind to, he was able to accomplish. He came from some tough circumstances, but you could see what he was able to accomplish. He had extremely strong women in his life. He put God in his life. And particularly to y'all that are out there who are struggling, who have felt some pain, who have been through some adversity, wherever you are at, whatever type of prison you may be in, if you are presently incarcerated, I'm talking directly to you. If you're in state, city, county jails, if you're in federal prison, you know one day you are coming home. If you're in a mental prison in the free world, always remember that you can be incarcerated and in your mind you can be free. Or you can be in the free world, but you could still be locked up in your mind. We appreciate you for checking with us. We appreciate you for tuning in. We want you to continue to tune in. You know where to find us at In and Out Podcast by Eric Geralt. That's INNOUT Podcast by Eric Geralt. We appreciate you for tuning in, and now we're out. Peace.